You've probably heard that there are tens of thousands of Christian denominations.
Too many to count.
20,000, 33,000, even 50,000. These numbers sound absurd, and in many ways they are, but they're not fabricated. They come from a respected academic source, the World Christian Encyclopedia, published by the Center for the Study of Global Christianity at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary. Here are the official counts from different editions of the World Christian Encyclopedia. 20,800 denominations. First edition, 1982. 33,820 denominations. Second edition, 2001. 45,000 denominations. Third edition, 2019. The Center continues to update these figures regularly through the World Christian Database, as well as summaries of their data on their own website. Their most recent summary has 50,000 denominations in 2025, with growth to 64,000 by 2050. So that's why you hear different numbers, anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000. Not because the facts are in conflict, but because people are quoting data from different years, spanning from 1982 to 2025, a period of over 40 years. There's a reason that the number of denominations seems inflated. It all comes down to how the Center for the Study of Global Christianity defines denomination. Denominations are defined and measured at the country level, creating a large number of separate denominations within Christian families and Christian traditions. For example, the presence of the Catholic Church in the world's 234 countries results in 234 Catholic denominations, though these can be further subdivided by rite, example Byzantine or Latin. So if you take the Catholic Church, most people would consider that one denomination, but that's not how they count it. They treat each instance of that denomination in a different country as a separate denomination, even if it believes all the same things and has the same leader and the leadership structure. So in their example, the Catholic Church in 234 countries equals 234 denominations. Now you can see how easily these numbers can get out of hand. Let's look at how the third edition of the World Christian Encyclopedia, published in 2019, breaks down the total of the 44,822 denominations. Out of these denominations, 584 are Orthodox, 370 are Roman Catholic, 11,956 are Protestant, and 31,912 are independent. The largest number, over 31,000 denominations, are what they call independent groups. They define these as, quote, churches or individual Christians separated from, uninterested in, and independent of historic denominationalist Christianity. This grouping is widely unhelpful for understanding Christian denominations because most are non-denominational or anti-denominational. It includes house church networks, cell-based networks, and a large number of radio and TV believers. There are also numerous cults included in this number, such as the Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Oneness Pentecostals, and Unitarian Universalists. So for a clearer picture, let's narrow our focus to the major branches of Christianity: Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Protestant. With these figures, we have about 12,000 Protestant denominations. But we know the number is widely inflated because each country is counted as a different denomination. If Catholics don't agree that they have 370 denominations, and the Orthodox don't agree that they have 584, then they must grant that Protestants likewise don't have 12,000 denominations.
Yeah, you make a fair point.
When people ask how many denominations there are, they're not usually thinking of the same denomination being counted separately in every country. They also don't have in mind minor variations in rite or practice among churches that share the same theology and history. What they typically want to know is how many distinct church traditions are there, like Lutheran, Anglican, Pentecostal, Methodist, and so on. To answer that, we can look at two larger numbers. Let's start with the larger one. In the 2001 edition of the World Christian Encyclopedia, we're given a figure that helps us get closer to the number of actual denominations. They write, As defined here, world Christianity consists of 6 major ecclesiastical traditions, divided into 300 major ecclesiastical traditions, composed of over 33,000 distinct denominations in 230 countries. These denominations themselves being composed of over 3,400,000 worship centers, churches, or congregations. So while they mention over 33,000 denominations, they also say these belong to 300 major ecclesiastical traditions, which are grouped under 6 broader streams. This number, 300, is far closer to what people usually mean when they ask how many denominations there are. Some people are looking for an even broader definition of denomination, one that sees more commonality between churches. For example, they might view Anglicanism or Lutheranism as one denomination each. What they're really asking is how many families of denominations are there? Thankfully, the 2019 edition of the World Christian Encyclopedia introduces this new category for the first time. They describe it this way. A new feature of this encyclopedia is families of denominations. These are groupings of autonomous churches or denominations that are linked by similar ecclesiastical tradition, history, and name. Families are globally diverse but still have significant similarities, such as practices related to baptism or church polity. They list 23 Christian families in total. If we exclude Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, which are widely accepted as theological cults, that brings the number down to 21. 3 of those are independent categories: non-denominational, non-traditional house and cell churches, and then hidden believers in Christ, which are underground believers not part of the visible church. If we subtract those, we're left with 18 Christian denominational families. Of those, 2 belong to the Orthodox tradition, that's Eastern Orthodox and Oriental and other Orthodox. 2 belong to Catholicism, Latin Rite and Eastern Rite, with a 3rd, Old Catholic, listed separately as it is not in communion with the Pope. And that leaves 13 families one could broadly classify as Protestant or evangelical. So how many Christian denominations are there really? That depends on how you define a denomination. But one thing is clear, it's not tens of thousands. The popular claim of 33,000 or 45,000 denominations is based on a bloated counting method that treats the same church in different countries as separate denominations.
You probably can't count either.
It also lumps in cults, house churches, and fringe groups under a definition so loose that even Catholics and Orthodox would reject how it's being counted. If you want a more meaningful number, there are 2 ways to measure it. A more narrow definition gives you about 300 major ecclesiastical traditions. That's church bodies with real historical and theological distinctions. A broader definition, which groups similar traditions together into overarching families, gives you 21 Trinitarian Christian families after excluding cults like Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses. Catholic writer Scott Eric Auld put it well in the National Catholic Register. There are not, repeat with me, there are not 33,000 Protestant denominations. There are not anywhere close to it. It is a myth that has taken hold by force of repetition, based on a source that even Catholics will have to concede relies on too loose a definition of the word denomination. In short, if you're asking how many truly distinct Christian traditions there are, the answer is somewhere between 21 and 300, depending on how finely you want to divide the lines. But it is absolutely not tens of thousands. That figure reflects a flawed definition, not a real division of the church. If you want to go deeper into this topic of Christian denominations, here are 2 solid resources. One for serious research and one that's more affordable and accessible. For the researcher or pastor, get World Christian Encyclopedia, 3rd edition. This is the source behind all the data that I've covered. It tracks Christianity globally, detailing denominational statistics, growth trends, and historical developments. It's expensive and academic, but unmatched in scope. For the everyday reader, get Handbook of Denominations in the United States by Roger E. Olson. Olson covers more than 200 Christian groups with clear explanations of their belief and structures. If you want to actually understand how denominations differ, this is the one to get. I've got a link to both books in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. If you learned something new, please click like as a way to say thanks. If you want more content like this in your feed, click subscribe directly below me. See you in the next video.